The reading today is from John 5, 1 through 9. May we open our hearts and minds to the reading of these words. After this, there was a festival of the Jews, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem. Now in Jerusalem by the sheep gate there is a pool, called in Hebrew Beth Zathon? Is that right? Okay. Which has five words. How do you say that? Porticos. In these lay many ill, blind, lame, and paralyzed people. One, one man was there who had been ill for 38 years. When Jesus saw him lying there, and he knew that he had been there a long time, he said to him, "Do you want to be made well?" The ill man answered, "Sir, I have no one to put me in the pool when the water is stirred up, and while I am making my way, someone else steps down ahead of me." Jesus says to him, "Stand up, take your mat, and walk." At once the man was made well, and took up his mat and began to walk. Now that day was a Sabbath. May we be granted wisdom and courage for interpretation. Amen.
And for our visitors, I always forget to say this. Today, our children's offering will be going to the Bethany Food Pantry. So thank you, everyone who has donated to that. You know, this is such an odd little section of the lectionary. It stops before we get to really probably the real reason that this was included in the Gospel of John. That Jesus tells someone to get up and walk, and that someone carries his mat, and thus he works on the Sabbath. So Jesus not only encourages someone to do work, this person does it and breaks the observation of the Sabbath and the fourth commandment. And all of this set the Pharisees' teeth on edge and contributes to this growing wedge between Jesus and the powers that were. But those who created the Revised Common Lectionary in 1992 stopped this text before we learn that this seemingly kind and benign act caused so much trouble for Jesus. So what's it all about? There were pools around the temple, and at least one was a mikveh. It was a pool where natural water or rainwater was gathered and used for ritual purification. And we're told the waters in this particular pool would periodically stir. They would bubble and flow. Now, we don't know if it was a spring or if water flowed in from pools farther up from a dammed section, but nevertheless, the myth was that the waters stirred when an unseen angel came and touched them. And the first person who would get to the waters after it stirred would be healed. So the sick and the wounded gathered around this pool, sitting for hours or days, or like our fellow today, 38 years, and sat gazing at the pool, waiting for it to move so they could jump in first and be healed, to be made well. Now Jesus enters the scene, and he looks around and he sees all these people waiting. Makes me think of the Dr. Seuss book, Oh, the Places You Go, that sometimes you'll get to the waiting place where everyone is just waiting. They aren't talking to each other. They're not learning about what brought them there, what they need, what their lives are like away from this pool. They're just looking at the pool so they can make it into the waters as soon as they move. They can take care of themselves. Now, Jesus happens upon our main character of the day and asks, "What are you doing here, really? I mean, you've waited 38 years? Wow, really? Now, do you want to be well?" Well, yeah, I do. But whenever I try, there's somebody faster, there's somebody stronger, there's somebody healthier, there's somebody richer, there's somebody younger, there's somebody with more friends. There's all of these people who are all somebody's else, and they push me out of the way to get there, and so I never make it first. So Jesus says, well, why don't you just get up and go? Everyone says you're supposed to get in the water, but if you can't do that, why are you wasting your life sitting on the edge? Why don't you get up and go? Go live. Go as you are. Don't waste your life because this is what people say you should be doing. Why for 38 years has your life been on hold? If you can't do this, why not do something else? And as if the thought had never occurred to him, the man stands up, he picks up his mat, and he walks away from the pool. We don't know where he went, but we know that he journeyed off into his life. People came to the pools to get well. Whatever was happening with our waiting man, it couldn't have been that bad. I mean, he spent 38 years of his life, the majority of his life at this time, lingering by this pool. He said he needed help to get into the waters. Perhaps he had a limp. Perhaps he wasn't tall enough to let himself down the side. We don't know. What we do know is that he had no vision of how to be himself in all the ways that he was created to be himself. What we do know is that all the vision he had of himself is what other people told him he should be. If you want to be anything in this world, you need to get rid of that limp. If you want someone to love you, well, you're really going to have to be taller. And then there's Jesus, the one who said, I came so they may have life and have it more abundantly. Obviously, this man had life, but it was not abundant. It was waiting. Do you want to be made well? There's a lot of difference between being well and being healed. We are healed from something that is sick, something is broken, and we are well when we know that who we are is good, when we know that we are enough, when we see that we have life and we have abundant life available to us. Yes, I want to be well. Being unwell is a disease of the spirit, a sickness of the soul. The man by the pool was not well for 38 years. All those years he sat. All those years he had reasons why he wouldn't be well. How many times are we the man sitting by the pool, content to be less than what we know we can be because we cannot do what we've been told is what we are supposed to do? That we are not able to do the thing that tradition tells us we are supposed to do, that we are supposed to be. How often are we the man sitting by the pool, willing to blame others for our inability to move, to change? How often are we the man sitting there pining for one thing, never considering the possibility of another thing, or maybe many other things? How often have we been the man who, even though we're not broken or wrong, we listen to the dominant narrative of the society and we believe ourselves to be less than. We believe ourselves to be wounded. We believe ourselves to be not right. How many times are we the man sitting by the pool who sits for so long that our dis-ease of the soul just becomes a characteristic of who we are? The circumstances of our lives shape us. I'm not going to deny that. We cannot escape them. We carry joys and we carry trauma with us throughout our lives. But to pretend like they're irrelevant is really unrealistic. But we are more than the circumstances of our daily lives. And life, abundant life, is found not on the outside of our various situations, but within them. Jesus comes to the man on his mat, and he doesn't put him in the waters. He comes to the mat and he speaks the words of life right there in this place that he had been lingering. Stand up and take this mat that has defined you, this mat that has kept you limited. Take this mat that has been with you all these years. Get up and go with it. The man does stand, and he takes his mat. He cannot leave the circumstances of the 38 years on the banks of the pool. He takes them with him, and he walks away well. He walks away living abundantly, and he walks away with a reminder of all that was unwell for 38 years. Abundant life does not happen when the light is right, when we have enough help, when we have enough money, when we look a certain way, when the waters magically stir. Abundant life happens right now, right here. It happens even when society tells us that we're not well, when society tells us that we're not right, and we need to wait. You just wait. Wait for the right time when everything can be changed. Waiting by the pool at Bethesda is a life of inertia, a life where we wait for something or someone to make us well, to give us purpose, direction. Deciding to be well, deciding to pick up our mats and walk into abundant life is not an escape from the pains of life, but it is a means that it means that we will engage life with creativity as we stand in a different position and different perspective. As another pastor once said, Jesus does not help the man get into the water. He comes to him on his mat. That same mat and the situation for that mat had been so long one that he wanted to escape. And there he says, pick up your mat, live abundantly, for I am the resurrection and life. If this man is going to do that, if he is going to stand up and take his mat and walk, he'll have to let go of the magic pool of water. He'll have to let go of all of the traditions that have been placed upon him. And he will have to begin to reimagine himself as bigger than his history. He will have to reimagine himself as more than what has happened to him, or what he has done or left undone. He will have to see himself as larger and more than the past 38 years. And he will have to do it over and over and over again, just as you and I must. James Hollis, in his book, Swamplands of the Soul, reminds us that we are not what has happened to us. We are not the role society places on us. We are our journeys. And it is when we stand and walk, bringing with us that which has shaped us, that we live into the creative and abundant spirit of life that Jesus offers to us. Do you want to be well? What's keeping you tied to your mat? Open your ears, your eyes, your hearts to abundant life and take your mat and walk into this new creation. and let us do it together, for the path is wide and the journey is long. Amen.